Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm George Herbert, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Thank you so much for tuning into our broadcast. We have multiple snow shots ahead of some of you have already seen some snow today. And of course, we do expect some more to kind of funnel on through here throughout the night and the overnight hours. We expect more snowfall Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and some more potential for snowfall next week that could be a little bit bigger than what we're seeing today. So we have a few different snow shots to talk about here. And I just kind of want to take this broadcast and kind of go over all of those different kind of scenarios that we see setting up here. Of course, as you're coming into the broadcast, if you would not mind, hit the share button. If you would do that for us, please tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen. If you're over there on Facebook, share this video on your news feed so that way your friends and family can view it and help us spread our information out. Thank you to everyone that's liking and sharing and following. You guys know all of that good stuff there. Thank you guys very much for that. Of course, we'll give it about a minute or so, let folks get in here and get settled in that want to do that. Say hello as you're coming in so I can greet you. Good evening to you, Phil. DJ, what's up, my friend? Heading back to Somerset from Prestonsburg. You're always somewhere, DJ. Gail, good evening out of Harlan, Kentucky. Jessica out of Knox County, good evening to you, my friend. Silver Surfer over there on YouTube, good evening to you. Jeremy, hello. Says 2 inches already. You have to send me a picture on Facebook. I have to see that. Yes, we are live on both YouTube and Facebook tonight. We are not live on TikTok. I'm not even going to try that tonight. That's just, I'm not even going to try it. Just leave it at that. Becky, good evening to you out of London. Jeremy, hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry. Hello from Moorhead. Good evening to you out there. Crystal, hello from Scott County, she says. Again, we're giving it probably about another 30 seconds or so, allowing everyone to get in here, kind of get going and get settled in. As we're doing that, I'd like to pull up something new we've been working on here. It is our new overlay that you're seeing there on your screen now, courtesy of @Pettus on X, if you want to follow him there, Pettus. I think he did a phenomenal job on this. Again, just a phenomenal job on the broadcast graphics here. In the middle left there, you see the camera, a new camera out of Moorhead, Kentucky. That is going to be courtesy of these folks here, Moorhead Amateur Radio Society. So thank you so much to them for allowing us to use their camera tonight. And of course, on our future broadcasts as well. But yes, you can see snow is flying in Moorhead there on the camera in the middle left. If you look down in the bottom middle portion of your screen, you'll see the weather headlines that we're going to be talking about on the broadcast here. As they scroll through, you'll find the clock in the far bottom right. You'll find your alerts just above the main headline zone right there. And that's how you can tell exactly what we're talking about and where things are at right now. Okay, so now that we've gotten all that covered, let's go ahead and start looking over the radar here. And then we're going to look at some of the model data and kind of take a peek into what we're expecting to see here. So like I explained when we first opened up this broadcast, we have several different snow shots to look at, not just what's happening today or tonight. Now, I do want to say that a lot of these are going to be isolated, very scattered. Now, Friday night into Saturday, well, some of the timing's a little bit different depending upon what model you're looking at. But sometime between Friday morning and Saturday morning, we could see something a little bit more substantial. And again, I want to rephrase that, maybe something a little bit more measurable. Now, again, I'm going to show you the model data. I'm going to show you what all the data is kind of saying here. I do want to point out that some of the model data is starting to change today. Originally, Friday to Saturday was supposed to be mainly a cold rain to some snow. And sure, that potential is still there. But some of the model data today for Friday and Saturday, talking about this Friday and Saturday, is starting to go more toward the snowier idea. And it makes sense, but again, I'll kind of show you and walk you through that. But right now on the radar, what you're seeing here, I do believe that most of this, if not all of this, is snow. Some of the radars I think the radar's having a bit of a hard time here on Weatherwise, trying to depict what exactly is happening. You can kind of see through the mess here out in Virginia and Ohio. It's having a little bit, or West Virginia, sorry, it's having a little bit of a hard time trying to pick up on what exactly is falling. But I do believe that most of this is either going to be snowfall or grapple that you're seeing here. We've seen a lot of grapple reports today. Matter of fact, we only got a little shot of something here in Radcliffe, and it was actually just grapple. So again, on the radar, nothing too crazy tonight, with the exception of you folks down here. Let me go ahead and turn these on. I think I have these off right now. Down here in far southeastern Kentucky, where the purple is, Pikeville, Whitesburg, and Harlan, as well as Cumberland, you actually have a winter weather advisory that you see scrolling across your screen there for 1 to 3 inches of snowfall possible, mainly because you're just higher up in the elevations there. And you can see just a more steadier band of snowfall will begin to set up late tonight into the overnight hours. So if you're down there in the southeastern corner of the state tonight, do expect some hazardous travel by tomorrow morning if it hasn't already began to set up there. As far as the other 95% of Kentucky, no real major impacts expected here. There will be maybe 1 to 2 lines, and you can kind of starting to see it set up here, maybe toward Berea, Richmond, Mount Sterling, where you may see some brief dustings or brief coatings, if you will, of snow on on maybe some side roads or sidewalks. But other than that, it's not really that big of a deal tonight. That's why we haven't been talking about it too awfully much. I'm already kind of turning my eyes more toward Friday and Saturday. So what I'm going to do now, and what I have pulled up here from Aguacero, is the model data here. We're going to look at a few different models and kind of just take a look at what they're showing. Real quick, I want to thank 2 of our sponsors here, Right Implement. Make sure you go shop at any one of their 15 locations across Kentucky. Get any of your winter apparel there for outdoors, farming, or for your home. Of course, they have so many different options there, and the customer service is top notch. So thank you to Right Implement for sponsoring us, as well as Creature Comfort Inn. Make sure you go take your pet there. You can actually get 10% off your pet's first day if you mention Weather Now Kentucky at Creature Comfort Inn. So if you're leaving out of town, don't leave your dog or your pet alone at home. Make sure they have someone to take care of them. Creature Comfort Inn, 10% off there with Weather Now Kentucky. Okay, so let's look at some of these models real quickly. And first up here, we have the RRFSA model. This is a newer model. But I have found that it is starting to take over for me. Now I don't just look at any one model and that's how we make our forecast. We look at an average, we look at a median, we compare it to past events, we do all kinds of analysis, so on and so forth, and that's how we make our forecast. But I can't say this model is starting to kind of take over. It just seems to be more accurate when it comes to timing. It seems to be more accurate when it comes to precipitation types, so on and so forth. So I put I guess if you had to say, George, which model do you put stock in? Now, this model only goes out 84 hours. So it's a high resolution model. It does not go out very far, but it does tend to do pretty well in the short term here. Okay. So let's advance this forward. If you want to follow along here, very small in the bottom corner of your screen where my cursor is kind of circling around, that is the time and date that we are on. So if you see me scroll here, you'll see that time changes. So if you want to try to pay attention to the time frames that we're looking at here, I'll try to call them out as well. But you can look down to the bottom left corner of your screen there. If you have really nice eyeballs, unlike me, you can kind of see that there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start triggering this on forward here. So this is valid for tonight. Again, it does show some streaky snow showers. Again, nothing too crazy. Maybe some grassy accumulations in some places, maybe some side road dustings. I don't really see anything too crazy. We'll bounce above freezing tomorrow morning. Most folks really don't have, 95% of the state really doesn't have anything to worry about for tonight. So if anyone's going to ask about school cancellations or anything like that, the only place I see that happening is in the southeastern corner of the state where the higher elevations are. That's really it. Okay, advance this forward to Thursday here. Mainly Thursday is actually going to be pretty clear, a little bit chilly, northwest wind starting to come in there. So again, a little bit on the chillier side. Here is late Thursday going into Friday morning. Now this is where some of the models begin to differ. Okay, and you'll start to see, I'm going to show you 3 or 4 different models here. So just bear with me, hang on in here, hang out, get your soda ready. Pause the Kentucky game. You're probably not missing much anything anyway. So just advance this forward here. This is where some of the models begin to differ. So this is model number 1. This is valid for Friday at 2 a.m. Keep track of these time frames. Friday at 2 a.m. Advance this forward, it does have some light, maybe even moderate snow kind of getting in here and then kind of drying out, and then it resaturates and brings a little bit more snow on the backside here by about Friday between 5 to 9 a.m.-ish or so, and then kind of dwindles that off to the east there. Now here comes a different line. Okay, so it does try to drop maybe 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch or so in some places. Again, nothing too crazy Friday morning. Again, this is just one model. I'm going to show you a few different models, okay? Here is the next kind of line. This would be kind of the main show. Now, this is, a little bit different than the other models. This model does have mainly a rainfall occurring. I will tell you before we even go on to the other models, we have, this is a little bit different. This is, we have a super chat. That says like $200,000. I'm pretty sure it's just $2. I'll have to get James to fix that. But thank you, MVR, for your $2 donation. That said like $200,000 up there. I'll have to get him to fix that. But anyway, this model has mostly rain for Friday night going into Saturday. Most of the other models I'm going to show you actually has mainly a snowfall here. Okay, advance this forward. It does try and kind of change over some of that precipitation to a snowfall, mainly because the cold front begins to catch it, and because some of this rainfall may be coming down so hard that it actually results in something called dynamic cooling, which basically is that the rain is coming down so hard, you kind of imagine it a little bit this way. It opens up a little bit of a portal, if you will, from about 5,000 feet up. Air is really cold up there, usually below freezing. Brings that temperature and that cold air down and actually cools the column of air all the way down to the ground in that little pocket and creates a snowfall pocket instead of it being rain, because a snowflake can live all the way to the ground because of dynamic cooling. That's what this model is trying to show a little bit of here on Friday night. Again, this is Friday at 10 p.m. And then by about Saturday morning, it does leave behind 1 to 2 inches of snowfall from that, maybe 2 to 3 inches for eastern Kentucky. Again, the digits on your screen that you're seeing is the snowfall output from the model. This is not our specific forecast. Okay, this is the snowfall output from the model. You have to remember, 30 to 40% of this is probably going to melt easily because our surfaces are still above freezing. So this is mainly closer to a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So advance this forward. It does have another little impulse or shot of snow Saturday morning that may spread through the southern half of Kentucky. So this may be something that, Hopkinsville or Bowling Green or Edmonton or Madisonville, Murray, Paducah, places that haven't seen a whole lot of snowfall may get in on like another little 1/4 to 1/2 inch here before that moves out on Saturday. And the Saturday evening, maybe another impulse of snow. And then the model kind of stops right there. So that's model number 1 there over the next 84 hours. 1 to 2 inches of snowfall, mainly within the next 84 hours, but also some rain kind of mixing in, and that rain kind of stealing most of the snowfall output. So that's model number 1. Let's go ahead and take a look at model number 2. This is the North American model. This is a model everyone loves to post online, but it rarely is ever accurate. Advance this forward to Wednesday evening. Of course, you know what's happening tonight. Going through to Thursday here, has Thursday is mostly clear, just like the last model that we looked at there. Now here comes almost the same time frame. Friday around 1 to 3 a.m. has a little shot of snowfall, and then that kind of wiggles on out here, maybe a little dusting as a result of that. Nothing too crazy. Here's Friday afternoon, and now this is the difference. Now remember, Friday afternoon on the other model that we looked at, it had it as all rain. This model has it as all snow. So again, now we're starting to get into some of the disagreements of the models here. This is Friday at about 7 p.m., 10 p.m. By the way, I want to point out, in that 3-hour span, it jumped 2 inches. So it's almost about a 0.75 inches per hour snowfall rate, which is a pretty solid snowfall rate. By the time that gets out here around Saturday at 1 a.m., it has some backside flurries kind of coming through, maybe enhancing snowfall totals a little bit Saturday morning. And then by Saturday afternoon, it's mainly out of here. And it does also try and leave a healthy snowfall behind of about 2 to 4 inches for a lot of folks. And pretty much it covers almost the entire state. So if you're a snow lover out in West Kentucky or South Kentucky that hasn't seen a whole lot of snow this season, this is the model that you're kind of rooting for right now, because between Friday and Saturday, it has about 2 to 4 inches of snow for darn near everybody in the state. So that's model number 2, 2 to 4 inches of mainly snow, maybe some rain mixing in, mainly coming on Friday afternoon to Saturday morning. Okay, let's go ahead and go to model number 3 here, which is the HRRR model. This is the high resolution model that kind of everyone goes toward within 48 hours. This model only goes out 48 hours, so 2 days. So it doesn't see a whole long time. Advance this forward. Again, has some streaky snow showers tonight. Every model agrees on that. We've already forecasted that. Let's move on to Thursday here. Does have a mainly dry Thursday as well. But now this is another difference. This model does not have anything coming through Friday morning. Remember, the other models had a little bit of a snow shot, maybe a dusting of snow between Friday at 1 a.m. and Friday at 5 a.m. This model does not have that at all. Okay, advancing this forward to Friday afternoon, it looks a lot like the North American model, the NAM model. It looks like it's mainly a snow with a little bit of rain maybe on the backside for West Kentucky because they're just a little bit warmer down there naturally. This model is also a little bit more northwest. I also want to point out, this model does show some heavier snow bands. These blue and purples that you're seeing are pretty darn heavy snow bands. All right, so it might be a little bit of a deformation band that this model is trying to pick up on. Now this model is about to end. It only sees to about right here, but you can see it already has 1.3 inches in E-Town, 1.8 inches in Irvington, an inch and a half in Litchfield, with some still probably another inch or so on the backside. So this model also probably has a widespread 2 to 5 inches throughout almost all of Kentucky. So that's 2 of the 3 models that show 2 to 5 inches of snow occurring Friday night to Saturday morning in almost all of Kentucky. Okay, here is the NAM 3K model. So this is the last model I want to show you for at least this kind of tidbit of things. All right, so this is, again, this model only goes out 60 hours here, so kind of, you know, it doesn't really see the whole entire event here. Has been, Thursday is mainly clear. Friday at around 1 to 2 a.m. it has that snow band coming in, very light. It also tries to spark some moisture out here in Western Kentucky, which I think is kind of interesting because I don't think that's going to happen. But that's what the model's showing right now. Advancing this forward, it does have some snowfall beginning to occur, or kind of scattered about there around lunchtime on Friday. So that's a little bit different. No other model showed that. Advancing this forward to Friday evening, here comes its snow shot. Now it looks a little bit different, right? It's a little bit more to the south. Remember, on the HRRR model that we just looked at, that snow band was up into Indiana, Ohio, Illinois. This is much more focused on the southern half to middle half of Kentucky here. This model is going to really just hammer southern Kentucky. It's trying to show a widespread 3 to 6 inches of snowfall for places like Bowling Green, Edmonton, Campbellsville, Somerset, Monticello, Barberville, McKee, Danville, Lexington, maybe up into Elizabethtown, Hazard, West Liberty, Moorhead. This would be a winter storm level snowfall from this model. So what I take from kind of the models we looked at here. Now, again, this is likely going to change. Wow, by the way, look at that snowfall that's just getting spit out of Moorhead. Look at that Moorhead camera real quick, guys. Look at that. Look at that Moorhead camera right now. And you folks in Western Kentucky haven't seen this all season. I know y'all are jealous right now. That's why I keep picking on y'all. That is a crazy looking snowfall out of Moorhead, Kentucky. So again, what I take from all 3 or 4 of these models that we just looked at is that snow is possible Friday night to Saturday. Right now, I would go with a 1 to 2 inch range for a lot of Kentucky, but we really have to pay attention to the timing. The timing is going to matter more than anything here. If most of the snowfall or precipitation overall occurs at nighttime when the sun is away, I think it would be mostly a snowfall, and maybe even a healthy snowfall at that. If it occurs when the sun is up, because the temperatures are so marginal, guys, we'll actually probably be warming up throughout this event on Friday night and Saturday. So temperatures are going to be very, very crucial to pay attention to. Some of the models have us in the upper 30s, low 40s. Some of the models have us in the mid 30s. And that 3 to 4 degree difference is going to make a massive difference on whether someone sees rain or whether they see snowfall. So what kind of determines the difference in the temperature? Well, the timing at which the precipitation falls. So if it comes during most of the nighttime when the sun is away, I feel pretty confident a lot of folks may see 1 to 3 inches of snowfall Friday night and Saturday morning. Now, if a lot of this precipitation falls during the day on Friday, well, it may be more of a rain than a snow with maybe some sleet mixed in, maybe just a dusting of snow on the backside. Okay, so it's going to be very interesting. Number 1 is the timing. Number 2 is the track. The track of the low pressure kind of swinging through there because it's kind of phasing together. The cold air is kind of phasing with the warm, moist air to the south. So when do they phase together? How do they track through? Because we saw 3 or 4 different possibilities there, right? We saw mainly northern Kentucky. We saw mainly southern Kentucky. We saw mainly eastern Kentucky. We even saw one where it was mainly northwestern Kentucky. So again, we saw 4 different tracks there on the 4 different models. So we'll have to see where the track is kind of going there. And a lot of these questions won't be answered probably until Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning at the earliest, because you have to get real close to when it's actually occurring to see when that phase is really going to happen. So that's just the God's honest truth there. So right now, what you saw on this broadcast is not our forecast. It's just the model. All right. Also, keep in mind, about 30 to 40% of what falls is probably going to melt. So you have to take 30 to 40% off the numbers that you're seeing there. Now what I want to do here is show you one of the more mid-range models here. So this is the GFS model. It's not all that great. It's one of those, it's the model. Remember last night where I said, if you guys saw my post, and I got roasted, so I had to turn off the comments because it was irritating me. But if you saw the post last night where I said one of the models was showing 50 plus inches of snowfall within the next 10 days near Kentucky, it was this model. Okay. Now, not this specific run, but it was this model. And that is absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Okay. But anyway, here's our few snow shots that we talked about. It has like an inch or so for those few snow shots. Nothing too crazy here. We do have some boom or bust potential. I kind of want to show you this. Let me zoom out a little bit here. We do have some boom or bust potential near the 25th. So here's that model's idea. First of all, it has rain coming through, maybe a rain to snow, January 22nd to January 23rd. Again, it's struggling on which precipitation type to kind of go with here. Again, you're not going to know the answer on that until you get a couple days out of the snowstorm. So again, this is a reminder. I don't cover Mississippi or Missouri. I don't cover that, my friend. I only cover Kentucky. This is a reminder. If anyone is putting a snowfall forecast out outside of 3 days of that snow event happening, you should probably mute that person because it's not going to be accurate. It's darn near impossible, especially in the Ohio Valley here in Kentucky. You guys know when we go anything further than 3 days out, it's always take it with a grain of salt, right? Advance this forward. Let's go ahead and kind of keep it going here. Has some more rain coming through on the 23rd. Really warms us up. We're going to go through several kind of what I want to call whiplash moments over the next 10 to 14, maybe even 16 to 18 days. We're going to have days where our temperatures don't leave the teens. We're going to have days where our temperatures are in the 50s back to back over and over and over again. And what that does is create an environment where warm and moist air is being pumped into Kentucky at the same time. Cold air from Canada and the polar, of course, you guys are hearing all about the polar Arctic blast. That's going to be fighting its way down toward Kentucky as well. So you have these two kind of battles happening. So everything over the next 2 to 3 weeks in Kentucky is all going to come down to timing. Timing. Okay? Because we know we're going to have the cold air available. We know we're going to have warm and moist air available to pump in some moisture for the snowstorms. It's all going to come down to timing. Okay? Advancing this forward to the 24th, 25th. Now this model, by the way, this model showed almost 30 to 40 inches of snowfall for Kentucky on the same day on a model run last night. Tonight, it shows mainly a rain. So again, you have to take these models with a grain of salt. 24th, 25th, but I will say this. If this does end up as a snowfall here for Kentucky, and it does take a favorable track up the Appalachian Mountains and out to the east, and we're on the backside of the low pressure, it will likely be a big time winter storm. So this is what I mean when I say boom or bust potential. It can either be a big time winter storm, or we're all going to be suffering through a miserable cold rain. It's going to be one of the two. There's something is absolutely going to happen between the 24th and the 26th of January. What it is exactly is very unclear at this point. Advance this forward. This model does also have another boom or bust potential snowstorm. If it's going to show it again, I don't know if it's going to show it again or not, near the 29th. And of course, it's not going to show it again this time. But it does also have another snow system, kind of see it out here to the west, kind of getting going, that may swing over into Kentucky as well. Again, way too far out to really get any real accurate details on that at this point. But that's kind of what the models are showing right now. I'll get to a few of your questions, but again, I can't really get into too specifics, so this is kind of just a general overview broadcast. Specifics aren't really going to be made until probably tomorrow at the earliest for Friday night in a Saturday snow system. Thank you, baby. I'm calling Brianna baby because she's my wife. No one freak out, please. I do want to thank Hyper Roofing out of Hardin County. They have one of the only GAF warranties out there. A lot of good warranties with the Hyper Roofing out of Hardin County. That's who we use for our roofing services as well. You guys can trust them. Hyper Roofing, if you're in or around Hardin County, get your roof done before, or at least checked before severe weather season happens, not during or after. Once Upon a Child on Outer Loop in Louisville and in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, as well as a sponsor of the channel here. Want to thank them for their support as well. Guys, make sure you go make some of your money back on some of your clothes. Sell your clothes with them, as well as getting some clothes for the upcoming spring season. Or if you need a winter jacket, Once Upon a Child for your kiddos is a great spot in E-Town or an Outer Loop in Louisville. And of course, finally, Plato's Closet in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. It's where Brianna and I shop pretty often for clothes for us, for teens, so on and so forth. Once again, you can sell your clothes back and make good money, and buy some gently new or used clothes as well. Again, no shame in that, guys. Go save you all some money. Support those those great families that own those family-owned businesses. Of course, thank you to all of our sponsors, by the way, as well, for continuing to support us. Let's go ahead and get to a few of your questions here. Justin says, I love Once Upon a Child. We do too. I mean, again, all of Samuel and Maylin's wardrobe is pretty much from Once Upon a Child. Leon says he's praying for a big time winter storm. Rebecca says she hopes she gets some snow out there in Madisonville. Listen, I hope for you folks out there in West Kentucky who've pretty much gotten, let's face it here, you've gotten the shaft over the last 3 or 4 years. I really hope you guys get in on one. Lisa says, George, when is the wind going to quit blowing? We'll have a few breaks here and there, but I want to say, guys, just get used to the wind. We're going to have multiple cold fronts coming in over the next couple of weeks. And with every single one of those cold fronts and warm-ups, you're going to have wind with them. So my advice to you, just kind of get prepared for the wind to stay here for a while. Again, people asking about specific cities. I see someone asking about Bardstown, so on and so forth. We don't really have any specific information here on this broadcast. This was more of a general overview. We will do more broadcast and more post updates in the future with more specifics on informations. Gidget, I hope I'm saying that correctly, says, don't want it. Thank you very much. By the way, do you guys like the new stream graphics and the new stream overlays? I think James did a great job on those. It looks phenomenal. It looks phenomenal, really. Bloomfield would like to see some snow, Michelle says. Thank you to everyone that has shared like the broadcast, by the way, as well. Sorry, my brain kind of stopped working there. I think that's going to pretty much do it for this broadcast, though. This was just pretty much a general overview broadcast. I also wanted to just kind of test out the new stream stuff, make sure everything worked correctly. Thank you again to all of our sponsors for helping us support us throughout this broadcast as well. Again, 3 of the 4 models do show a pretty healthy snowfall for all of Kentucky Friday night going into Saturday, so you're kind of rooting for that. Sawyer says, so what were you talking about with the Temps fighting against each other? Is at the battlegrounds? I seen referenced on post. Yeah, so when you have, so let me just kind of show you, because I think it's just going to be easier to show you what I'm talking about here. Let's go to the European model here. Go back to the 12Z run. Let me just show you kind of what I'm talking about here. So what I have on your screen right now is the 850 millibar temperature anomaly. Basically what that means is it's the temperatures at about 5,000 feet above our head. So that's kind of what we look at for temperature trends and patterns. And this tells us how they differ from our averages. So your red and orange and your gray out here, those are warmer than average. Your blue and your purple and the deeper colors you go are colder than average. So advancing this forward, you'll see we're going to have quite the cold front coming through tomorrow night, which leads to our snow chance for Friday. Okay. And then on Friday and Saturday, it looks like cold air pretty much dominates. It comes out of Canada and just travels right on down into Kentucky. And it's going to be pretty strong. The 18th and 19th to the 20th, probably going to be pretty cold days between those 3 days there. I wouldn't imagine we go above freezing those days. Again, 18th, 19th, 20th, something around those time frames. And then we just get repeated shots of cold air. Again, another leakage of the polar air coming down into Kentucky here. Again, for the 20th to 21st. Okay, you see all those blues, purples, and pinks. Those purples and pinks and whites are really, really, really the cold stuff here. And then we have, again, another reinforcement of that cold air. But now you're going to start seeing the warm air begin to kind of fight back. And that's this red and orange coming out of the Pacific and the Gulf. Okay, and here's our shot of moisture, by the way. When this happens, when you see all this intrusion and this movement of that warm air coming from the Gulf and the Pacific up through Kentucky in toward Canada, that always brings up warm and moist air with it. But look at what is lurking up into the northwest. That is some seriously cold air. I mean, seriously cold air. That is what you see everyone talking about. Polar vortex, blah, 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 breaking news. That's what they're talking about. That is some seriously cold air there. And that's going to have absolutely no problem smacking out that warm air, as you can see here. Just no problem at all. Now, what we refer to as battlegrounds are the zones in between. So if you look at the orange, which is above, and you look at all this purple, pink, white, which is below, the white area or the neutral area in between is the area where the low pressures or the storm systems will track. So if you want to have a big snowstorm in Kentucky, you always want to be on the left or west side of the low pressure. Basically means low pressure kind of comes here where my cursor's at and kind of dips down, comes in through like Atlanta or somewhere down here, Georgia, Alabama, Middle Tennessee, and then lifts off to the Appalachian Mountains and out to the East Coast. You don't want it in Kentucky, and you don't want it too far out to the East Coast, or else you're going to be dry and miss out on it. If it's in Kentucky, it's going to be a miserable cold rain. If it's north of Kentucky, it's just going to be miserable and cold rain. If it's too far north of Kentucky, it's going to be severe weather. So that's why we talk about boundaries, where the low pressure tracks. All those things are important, and the timing at which that low pressure comes through. Because look at what happens here if the low pressure comes in a little bit later. Well, now that boundary is right across, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, going into Virginia, which would be an ideal snowstorm kind of setup for us near the 25th to 26th. And then just repeated warm air and the cold air. And then we get extremely cold late January. Look at this. Look at this sounding here. It has our low temperature the 29th of January at being 2 degrees. Let me just double check that real quickly. I'm sorry, being -1 degrees. So again, we have some really, really impressive shots of cold air coming into Kentucky. But in between those shots, we're going to have a few hours to a day or two of warm and moist air shooting up some moisture for us as well for the snow systems to work with. So you kind of see why everyone's been kind of talking about, oh, the snow machines are getting going, old man winter's back. The patterns make sense. It's all about timing. So you're going to hear that said from us a lot of times over the next couple of weeks. Get used to it, folks. I think this pattern kind of stays with us until around Valentine's Day, and then we'll probably switch to more of a spring-like pattern for the end of February. The most accurate long-range model, Brooke, is probably the European model, the ECMWF. The most accurate short-range model is almost always going to be one of the HRRR, Rapid Refresh, or RRFSA model. Olivia says, any more coming down tonight? If you get lucky, maybe a dusting. Again, that's mainly going to be in far eastern Kentucky. All right, that's going to do it for us here. I appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Again, we'll do more specific posts and updates and broadcasts, and I'm going to make a couple of reels and YouTube shorts and TikToks for those platforms as well for tomorrow. So we'll get all kinds of information and data and content out to you here very soon, but let you know what to expect. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster, here with Weather Now Kentucky. Buckle up, because winter is back.